It is that time of year when the heat and humidity drives many Mid-Southerners to pools all over the area.
When one Memphis woman decided it was time to have a pool of her own, she signed a contract and made a deal. But a short time later, when she canceled the contract, she ran into problems she couldn't tackle by herself. So she called Fox 13 problem solver Scott Madaus. He joins us live here in the studio with more on what happened next. Scott?
Hey, good evening, Steve. When Kimberly Betts contracted with Blue World Pools out of Carson City, Nevada, to build a pool for her right here in the city of Memphis, she thought this summer would be one to remember. Little did she know, this one she'll never forget. Summertime in Memphis, hot and humid. Not much besides a cold AC that can bring the temperature down. Not much, except for a cool pool.
It's hot, and I have a lot of nieces and nephews. I want them to have fun when they come over.
So at the mere thought of spending another summer without the shallow, deep blue water in her backyard, Kimberly Betts went looking for a deal.
I looked up a couple of companies. I called, got some estimates, and a friend of mine told me about Blue World Pools.
She called, a company representative came to her home, giving her a sales pitch, then giving her this contract. In return, Kimberly gave the representative, a man named Robert Harrelson, a deposit check for $200. But more importantly, she gave the man her trust in the form of this signature.
We wrote up paperwork on there. We surveyed the yard, did some measurements on it.
Was it a contract?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it was a contract.
But it was the very same day, just minutes later, Kimberly got a bad feeling about the big deal. She then called the company, canceling the contract.
I called. Like an hour later, I canceled.
Even sending this letter terminating the agreement.
I wrote it up, and I copied it, and I sent it to him through the mail the same day, the very same day.
This is the letter. Notice the date. Again, you'll see it's the same date that's on the contract. And take a close look at the Blue World Pools contract, and you'll see it specifically says you may cancel this transaction without any penalty or obligation within 3 business days from the date above, which she did. But representatives with the Nevada-based company told Kimberly that she was still under contract, and the only way to get out was to pay a $6,000 fine, even though ground hadn't even been broken yet.
His ultimatum was to either pay $6,000 to cancel the contract or go ahead and get the pool at $12,000.
But in addition to the $6,000 fine, Miss Betts tells us they even threatened her with a lien against her home. So when threats of action turned Kimberly to be concerned, and when her calls for help weren't being listened to by anyone, she called the Fox 13 problem solvers to take action. After she called, I started digging, and what I found might shock anyone who's looking at the company for their services. According to the Better Business Bureau, between their 2 locations, Nevada and Georgia, they processed a total of 76 complaints about this company in the last 36 months. Complaint after complaint. Digging even further, I discovered on the website, ripoffreport.com, 2 pages of complaints from customers who say they got a raw deal from Blue World.
Everybody should know, you know. It's ridiculous how they sham us.
So I called their Carson City, Nevada headquarters to get answers. Hi, this is Scott Madaus from Fox 13 News in Memphis. Because of Nevada state laws, I was unable to record the conversations. But when I started asking the tough questions, I was met only with resistance, then by a man who hung up the phone on me. Ironically, after our phone call to the company, Kevin Fisher with Blue World called Kimberly just minutes later, and she tells us he changed his tune.
He doesn't want to show up on the news. It's bad publicity for his company. He says that we could walk away right now at this point. You did something I couldn't do. You got him to call me. He wouldn't call me. Walking away wasn't an issue. It wasn't an option. But now it is since I called Channel 13.
But there were 2 outlandish stipulations. Mr. Fisher said he would not give her anything in writing, saying that the company will not pursue legal action. He also said he'd be monitoring Fox 13 News to see if we aired this story, and if we did, according to Kimberly, he said all deals are off. Now, Mr. Fisher, I know that you're watching tonight's broadcast, so as soon as I take this microphone off, like I said, at 5 o'clock, I'll be able to answer your telephone call. You have the number. I have the phone in my hand. Live in the studio, Scott Madaus, Fox 13 News.